Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1969, 70, 71, 72 Carryover League. Another draft prep video. This one is going to take a look at focus on a piece of data that I cut out of the end of season last year, and I worked into the stats from Baseball Reference. You recall that the league has to account for 240 players from 1984 who are no longer in the league, which means that there's going to be a lot of players from 1969, 70, 71, 72 that we haven't seen before. So one of the things I wanted to consider was, when selecting cards from 1969, if it just happened to be a lot of players who are unique to that box and not the other three boxes, it means that I wouldn't be removing cards from those other three boxes and thereby pushing the talent pool forward so that there's a bigger talent pool. And so how exactly would you do that if you just picked anybody you wanted from 69? And so the idea was to find more players who are wrapping up their year in 1969 who have one more crack at it. Or perhaps they're not even an older player at or near retirement. Maybe it's a young player who was called up just for 1 year only from the minor leagues and was a 1 year player. And maybe that would be good to bring into that league. So if you go into Baseball Reference seasons and pick 1969 here, there's a category under Other called Retirements. And when you get to this category, you have batting and pitching of players who didn't participate anymore after 1969. So you can then do a sort of games played for batters, which includes pitchers, or you can just simply do it under at-bats, would be even better. And Ken Boyer's at the top of that list. And then if you go to pitchers, and you can do the same thing from innings pitched sort, and you see Don Drysdale's at the top of that list. However, I do know that Strat-O-Matic did not print Don Drysdale's 69 card, at least in this particular reissue set I have. So the question remains, how do I figure out who's available in this unique list? So I want to go back to, this is a spreadsheet from last year, a post-draft spreadsheet. This color green these are players who have been carried over from a previous season and are still moving along. And you'll see a player's name multiple times indicating all the years still available in the Carryover League. There's quite a bit of those when you scroll down. And after scrolling down there, here's a small little area here. There's one guy. Last year before the draft, there was 128 keepers. 127 teams kept their guys. Unfortunately, Steve Yeager did not get drafted. Sorry about that, Steve. The Dodgers decided they would do something else at catching, and so they didn't, even though they protected him before the draft started, they changed their mind during the draft and didn't pick him. And nobody else picked him either. And then in this yellow area here, alphabetical, these are all waivers, guys who could have been taken in the summer league draft season you just saw, but weren't. There's guys in here that are actually, Don Baylor could have been in that league and he wasn't. Tom Bernansky had 32 home runs and he wasn't in the league. Cecil Cooper had a nice long career, but in '84 he only hit 275 and his power was down. Andre Dawson, he actually hit 248 that year. So there was guys available, they just weren't good enough. And then you have these R's, are guys who retired in that year but could come back in a year following. And then there's a bunch of other categories for rookies, guys who are in the league earlier, left the league, trying to get back in, rookie pitchers. And then after that, this area here, starting in row 1698, which means 1,697 possible cards weren't selected from 4 different seasons. You have this batch of 1969 guys. And these are some of this 1969 guys still have protection by their teams, and other 69 guys do not. And there's going to be about close to 400 of these, including nameless cards. So I isolated in a separate spreadsheet those 69 cards, since they're available, and here they are in a separate spreadsheet, and it comes to 378. There's some blank ones in there though. 378 rows. Then in this section here, these are those hitters we saw before. I copied and formatted their name, last name comma first, to match the same sort of my those 69 players. This field doesn't, it gives like their cumulative statistics, and they all ended in 69. Ken Boyer. These are all the hitters. And then after this batch of yellow, this pink purple is for the pitchers, including Don Drysdale. And the point of all this was to basically get a sort of it all, and then once a sort is done of all this data, I can look through it and find individual players that I know are available in the 1969 draft who meet that criteria of being their last chance to be drafted. So all I have to do is do a sort of the entire database here, which is about 564 rows. And now I can sort it by name. And when I do that, you'll see I have the 1969s, and then these retired guys are sprinkled through as replicas, as far as name goes. So the trick to doing this is, now you can look through this, and what you're looking for is to find where you have a yellow or pink name and the name adjacent to it, alphabetically, is the same. That means that I have that card in the league. So when I scroll down, Doug Adams, Mike Adamson are not. They probably didn't play enough. But then I go down here to this yellow name, Ruben Amaro, yellow for hitter, and there's a white row above it, and that row is actually the storage spot for his card. That's Ruben Amaro. He had 41 plate appearances. I'll kind of like take you through all these columns here. Over here, there's batting average, on base, and this is OPS out here, on base and slugging right there. So Amaro hit 222, but he does have a card. So the thing is, I'm going to make a little list of guys as I go through this, and then I'll take a peek at them in the card list and see. Here's another guy, Rich Berry, another Philadelphia player. Rich Berry hit 188. So that's kind of funny. 2 guys, 2 middle infielders for the Phillies are available. And then Gary Bell is the next name right here. He's a White Sox pitcher. And then you can keep going down this list. John Boozer, he is a Yankee pitcher. And I'll just keep going down. I'll do this about a dozen names, and then we'll call it for the video. Here's Don Bosch. And yeah, Don Bosch hit 179 for Montreal. Like I said, there's a reason why these guys haven't been drafted, and there's also a reason why they probably didn't continue on into 1970. They were pretty bad, but you'll find it every once in a while. You'll get a really good player out of this. There you see Ken Boyer's, the record for Ken Boyer, but of course Strat didn't print his card. Larry Burkhart for Cleveland, 425 and 42 innings. We got about 6. We'll find 6 more, and then we'll call it here. Ed Charles for California. This one, so Galen Cisco, you see right here, but this record number here, this number 300, is the code for a nameless card that I wrote. And so I don't want to use any of my nameless cards. So yeah, I do have a Galen Cisco card, but I made that one, and I don't want to do that one. I want to use the Strat-O-Matic cards if I can. So I want to keep going. Chip Coulter. Oh, you see, I almost got tricked. So Chip Coulter at 316, but 300 is the code in that column, which means I printed that one too. Bobby Cox. He actually had a lot of at-bats for the Yankees. Bill Davis, not Willie Davis. Ron Davis, a Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh. Yeah, hit 234 for the Pirates. And then we keep going down. Paul Edmondson for the White Sox. Well, he was actually a pretty good pitcher here. And this is also telling me that he has got the team name CHW for White Sox is here, which means he's been protected by the White Sox. So he actually is might be one of the better players in this list. Paul Edmondson. No Jim Ellis or Sammy Ellis. Bobby Etheridge is a 300 player, not available. Roy Face is a 300 player. Roy Face, that would have been a great player to have. Turk Farrell, protected by the Phillies in 74 innings. Goes under the name Dick or Turk. Luckily, we have a last name sort. That's how we found him. Jack Fisher, Pittsburgh pitcher. And we'll go one more. 300 Miguel Fuentes, Bob Garibaldi. Vern Geichert, 465 pitcher. Alright, I'll see if I can isolate these cards and take a peek at them. Okay, so I've pulled out the 13 cards, and a couple of them are going to be in the White Sox and Philly stacks, but I want to kind of go through these guys who are available to anybody. And obviously they're not going to be very good, but remember, this is their last chance. So if they get into the league, it means that more talent is available in the future years that keeps getting pushed forward year by year by year. So I'm more inclined. The best thing about this is if you get a lousy player on your team for 1 year, in the last year of his contract, he immediately gets retired before the next season. So looking through these, I'm trying to look for the bright spots and kind of be optimistic at what their chances are. So the first player was an infielder, Ruben Amaro, who played for the Angels. He only had 27 at-bats. So we're lucky that his card was even printed. A switch hitter and A-bunter, and can play all the infield positions. It would be really, really hard to justify getting this card in the league. I know the talent level is not going to be as good in the Carryover League next year, but I don't know if it would mean it would drop to this level of hitting. That's simply not very good hitting at all. Flexibility and defense is good though, so that's the highlight of that one. Then we have Dick Barry. This one could be interesting too. Interesting on-base percentage against lefties, but no defense and no power. And he hit 188 for the Phillies, so probably not there, but you never know. Now we have another outfielder, Don Bosch. He's actually a 3-1 in center field. That's where you kind of, again, you ignore the E rating and go, hey, he's a 3-1 in center field. A switch hitter with power, not enough stick though. And he hit 179. Next player, Ed Charles, Let's look at the at-bats here. 169 at-bats, hit 207. Against righties, he's better than lefties, and he's a 327 at third, but not very flexible beyond that, so maybe not. Then we have Bobby Cox, who his fame as a manager might just get him into the league, right? Third baseman, second baseman, and against lefties. So, you know, if you had, let's say, a left-handed hitting third baseman who couldn't field, you could have Bobby Cox be his defensive backup and play against lefties. So, slim chance on that one. Ron Davis. Now, here's an interesting player because he's a 2 in the outfield with a -1 arm. He's a 2 in center field with a -1 arm. And he offers a decent amount of on base against lefties without any power. He had 234. So, if a team is desperate, this guy would make some sense to just be a defensive outfielder and play against lefties. So it's possible. Now let's look at some of these pitchers. Gary Bell was a starter pitcher, but wasn't very good. His ERA was 5.31, and even, you know, as a right-hander, you have to think you could find something better than that in the draft. John Boozer, a relief starter. The stats are better than his card. He's got a 4.28 ERA. Really struggles against lefties, though, doesn't he? But he's not bad against righties. So we'll have to see. It's all about how the rest of the league's talent level looks. And again, we're just looking at 1969, the most depleted talent in this sequence, because for 3 years, guys from this year have been already taken into the league. Larry Burkhart, reliever. This guy, as a righty who gets righties out, 4.29 ERA. Wouldn't be that bad. Jack Fisher. Nah, don't think this Jack Fisher is going to make it. 5.50 ERA. Vern Geichert. Not very good. 4.65. All right, but we got to remember these guys were already unprotected by their teams, so we already knew that they were probably going to be, you know. But having them in a separate area of storage, and it will enable me to say, hey, you know what? Let's just get some of those guys in the league, so I can keep some talent in next year's draft and the year after that. All right, so what do we have here? We have the White Sox had, these are actually White Sox protected players. Let's just focus on Paul Edmondson since we know it's his last year. And this card's pretty good, actually. Fairly good. 3.68 ERA in 88 innings. And he's a starter 7. I got to think this card gets in the league. Yeah, this card will get in the league. 3 or 4 starter in the league. He'd be okay if he was in the league last year. So we knew that, you know, we knew that a protected player was going to be better than the unprotected ones. And lastly, Philadelphia. And again, this is just the first 13 I found on that list, alphabetically through Vern Geichert. So I went from A to G, so I still have more than half the alphabet left. So with Phillies, it was Turk Farrell, or Dick Farrell, what he calls himself here. Reliever, I don't know. That's a lot of base runners. He's only got a 4.01 ERA, though, in 74 innings. You know, there's a lot of expansion teams in this league and so forth and so on, so he might get into the league because his ERA is right around 4. So there you are. So that little exercise was to see if I could find some diamonds in the rough. Not many diamonds, but at least I can continue pursuing that spreadsheet and seeing if there's additional talent on that list. All right, thank you for checking this video out. We'll see you again next time.